Well, I beg your indulgence. I don't know if I'll actually ever use this video or uh, post this video, but I thought I would record it and just see what happens to come out of my mouth on this subject. Uh, the idea was to do a video where I ask myself the question, the alt-right, what happened? um, this is something I guess it's a subject that I could possibly write a book about, but it would be a short book, and I don't know if it would be that interesting of a book because I'm not really, even though I was somebody who figured on the alt-right scene, I was never really an insider. I didn't really know anybody, didn't have the inside scoop on much of anything. I just was some guy who got to sort of know this other group of guys, and chief among them Richard Spencer, who eventually let me write for his new web magazine called AlternativeRight.com, and eventually I became an editor or a co-editor of that web magazine. I feel like I'm not saying the right word. Website. It was sort of a website, but it was sort of a magazine also, a journal, I suppose. And so then eventually Richard lost interest in it, and then it became something that Colin Liddell and I were doing together as co-editors, and then Richard pulled the plug on it completely and started his own journal. I feel like I've been through all this before, though. I don't know if it's all that helpful to talk about that stuff again. But when I look back on the scene, such as it was, I just think to myself, what a waste. It was a waste of a waste of a lot of talent, I believe. It was, there was something definitely percolating. There was a scene happening there. There was a reaction. There was a response to something that was going on in the culture, and it was a response that needed to happen. And it was not all about, it was not quote unquote neo-Nazi. It was not all about it was not all about any particular issue. It was about, from my perspective, it was about addressing all of the forbidden things, all of the things that we're not supposed to talk about, all the things that have been relegated to, to subjects that one doesn't broach in polite society. And that was what the alt-right meant to me. That was what it always meant. It wasn't about, there was, I was always anti-white, of course. And, the biological reality of race, the biological reality of gender, and other things. Those were things that we were, we were forbidden to talk about, and especially the race part, of course. But really, increasing the gender stuff too. There's so much that's been just. This is such an anti-intellectual age. This is such a thoughtless age. This is an age in which thought is just absolutely forbidden. You should not think too much, because if you think too much, you start to question what they're telling you. And if you start to question what they're telling you, well, then then you're entertaining ideas that make you a bad person. And so it had to happen. And I'm still happy to have been a part of it. And I'm not sorry to have been a part of it. I just think I'm still scratching my head over the way that it all went down, the way that it all just collapsed upon itself. Because having people around, you know, who are willing to address these ideas from whatever perspective they were going to address them. Now, I realized from the start that I was on this boat, so to speak, with some people that, I differed from radically in some ways. But we all hated the same the same hateful juggernaut that was anti-thought, that was anti-intellectual, that was telling us what we could and couldn't say. We all raised a middle finger to that, whoever we were, whatever, ultimately informed our belief system. There was no one uniform way of thinking. It was a big tent, but what everything had, what this big tent shared in common was just nonconformity. I mean, nonconformity, obviously, with a certain perspective towards the what do we call it? The neoliberal, the neo-leftist, the political correctness, the what later came to be known as social justice warrior. I don't know, all that stuff. That whole behemoth, that whole monster, that whole juggernaut, which is the mainstream. It's mainstream thought. It's not even thought. It's not even. Again, there's no thought. It's what we're told to believe. It's indoctrination. And so the alt-right was anti-indoctrination. It was about slaying sacred cows. But the problem with it was, the problem that it ran into I don't think had anything at all to do with belief. I'm not blaming any belief or ideology or opinion on the downfall of the alt-right. What I blame is just ego. There was a time when I thought that this was going to be, that I'd found my career, that I had been discovered by Richard Spencer. He had a foundation going. He was, he had, he was, a, he had some clout. He had some money. he was um, a part of this. He had this think tank going, and when I in 2011 when I flew to South Africa to do my essay on the Afrikaner people and how they are surviving in this dangerous uh, new dispensation that was the ANC-led South Africa, with all of the horrors that it entailed. Um, it was an amazing trip. I met a lot of really interesting people, and it was all on the dime of NPI, Richard's organization. I was thinking back in 2011, this is going to be my gig in the future. I found my place, but that proved not to be. And I'm not here, to wallow in self-pity over that. I'm not, I ended up misjudging a lot of people, including Richard Spencer himself. Um, but, uh, but I think the fact that it came apart the way that it did, and it partly came apart just because it became more visible. It became more conspicuous. Really, Hillary Clinton's speech about where she mentioned the alt-right by name in 2015, it was exciting. It was exciting to hear her deliver that speech, but at the same time, that was the beginning of the end, because that was when anything that was alt-right was labeled, that in concert with Trump, the Trump phenomenon, and the increasing toxification of the press. Was the press ever non-toxic? I don't know, but it definitely got worse. At around that time, and that was kind of the beginning of the end. But the real the middle of the end, let's just say, or what really got the ball rolling towards it being destroyed, was Charlottesville, which, interestingly enough, was the event that got me to start recording videos and posting them on YouTube, which I still do, even though I hate YouTube now, even though YouTube has become an utterly, like so much else, has become an anti-thought, a place where thought is forbidden, and if you don't believe what you're told by the good, right, just, and proper authorities, then you're a bad person. You're someone worthy of being deplatformed, worthy of being silenced, worthy of being unpersoned. Okay, stop petting the cat. She's got no interest in you. That's the thing about cats. You can pet them, and they enjoy the attention at first, but then the third or fourth stroke, they suddenly bite you. And it's nothing vicious. It's just something they do. It's like, okay, I'm done being petted. I'm going to bite you now. Uh, I wish there was some way for me to connect what uh, that that subject metaphorically to what I'm talking about here thematically, but I'm not sure that there is. So the world was against us, is against us. I mean, I'm not exaggerating or being grandiose when I say that. It's the truth. They once they became aware of us. At first, I thought it was exciting. At first, I eagerly would type in AltRight to. I would go to Google and type in AltRight and see what would come up, and see, and then of course, there were a couple of hit pieces that got published that included me, uh, and one of them was the one that is still up. That's, I think, what is it? Is it the SPLC or the ADL? That has the alt light and the alt right and the 10 faces of top representatives of the alt right and the top 10 representatives of the alt light, and I was one. I made the list. That was before Charlottesville, I think. I'm pretty sure. So it was already building at that point. There was already just this head of steam of such absolute hatred that they were just channeling against us. And it's not even like everybody who was in this group was necessarily worthy of defense. I mean, there are a lot of. I wouldn't say that any. I don't know if I hate or despise anybody who's categorized as alt right, but I think that some there are some who are certainly worthy of critique and perhaps even scathing critique. Perhaps even me occasionally. No, not me. I'm right about everything all the time. But everybody else. Um, so, the reason why all of this is on my mind right now is, I really, it's just incredible the way in which everything just splintered and came to pieces, and the way in which it all came apart didn't really even necessarily have that much to do with the Lucan press, um, and the scurrilous attacks against us. Like I was saying, I used to type in alt-right just because I was excited. Oh boy, this group that I've been a part of, it's been pretty low profile. Now it's suddenly getting all this exposure and attention. I'm famous now. Um, but eventually I just couldn't do it anymore because every time I typed in alt-right, the stuff the stuff that would come up would just be the most ridiculous, scurrilous, hateful, disgusting, appalling, slanderous, libelous, uh, just garbage, and I couldn't. Eventually, I just had to close my ears to it, close my eyes to it. Um, so anyhow, the I think I'm gonna stop recording and pick this up later, pick up this theme later, but the degree to which things came apart, the degree to which egos intruded uh, and and wound up this this whole breaking all the alliances apart into these warring factions, you know, in, who were who are hurling invective at one another rather than, understanding we're all hated right now. We're all hated by the outside, uh, not the entire outside world, but by the press, the vultures of the Lugan press, and that maybe it would be it would be tactically in our advantage not to go after one another in this vicious way, not to try to sick the press on on the factions of ourselves that we don't like, but to stick together. But no, that didn't happen. Anyway, I'm going to end this, and I'll pick it up later. Thanks for watching.